Wait, what are you going to do to me? Tell me to shut up?
Right.
You
Forever
won't be
young.
the first, and I'm quite sure you won't be the last. I've been thrown out of more places.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in to our inaugural episode of UFCW 75 Frontline Labor. On this podcast, we highlight members of Local 75 and the critical fight for fair contracts with livable wages, affordable benefits, and job security, providing better lives for members and their families. From supermarkets and dispensaries to food processing and packing plants, there is power in a union. I'm your host, Thomas Pedrati. To kick off our first episode, we are delighted to be joined by Roberta Greaver and Haze Hererra, long-term members of UFCW Local 75, who also serve as elected members of our executive board. But before we dive into their insights, we are honored to have Local 75 President Kevin Garvey here with us to launch the show. President Garvey has been a dedicated unionist throughout his career. Starting as a meat cutter in the 1980s, Kevin has held numerous significant roles within the organization, including Executive Vice President, Secretary-Treasurer, and Director of Servicing and Bargaining. His wealth of experience and commitment to union principles make him an invaluable leader and a fantastic guest as we kick off the show. Hi, Kevin. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thomas, thanks for having me.
Of course. To start off, could you just tell us a little bit about Local 75, the industries that it represents, and the work that it does on a day-to-day basis?
Local 75 primarily is retail grocery, retail drug, and packing and processing. But we do some distribution, nursing, things of that nature. So during our high water mark at COVID, we were probably 33,000. We're currently at 27,000. Western Ohio, Northern Kentucky to Lexington, and a little bit of Southeast Indiana.
Awesome. Thank you. And could you talk a little bit about how you first became involved with the union and why it is that you believe so much in the labor movement?
Well, at first, I was 18 years old to begin with, right? And my older brother had a position with John Morrell, and they had a hog kill operation in Cincinnati. So he said, "Hey, man, you want a job?" Like, sure. Yeah. So I was aware of the union because my father was a butcher by trade, and he was involved in the union pretty heavily. So there was like a 90-day probationary period, but it was probably $4 or $5 above the minimum wage as a starting wage, right? Pretty lucrative job. And then after you get your 90 days, and you became a scale person, which you're talking maybe $10.50. When in today's world, that's $45 an hour, right? You adjust it for inflation. That's a boatload of money. And I'm just a kid, right? So mandatory overtime, 6, 10-hour shifts. So I came home with one of these first checks, and showed my old man, And the first thing he says to me is, well, you can thank the union for that check. I said, the union? What do I thank the union for? He said, because, man, you're just something they need to make money. All right? They got to pay their taxes. They got to pay their labor bill. They got to have equipment. He said, that's a contract that was negotiated by the butchers union to compensate you for your labor. They don't pay you that because they like you. They pay you that because they're under contract to do so. And it's at that moment, that's when I really started to think, wow, okay. All right? But initially, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, most young people associate the union with higher wages and benefits. And it really hasn't changed. I was probably making 2 or 3 times what a non-union butcher was making at the time. Now granted, my tenure at John Morrell was only a couple years because I moved the operations to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I became a retail butcher at Local 610 in Cincinnati. And I did a couple-year apprenticeship, became a journeyman. So that first year as a journeyman, it was like, overtime, maybe 33,000. And equivalent today, about $100,000. Now, my benefit package, my health and welfare and retirement package was probably $150, $175 a month. It's the compensation's there. It's just changed like a composite. Because in today's world, we have contracts where your health care for your family and your retirement structure is $30,000 a year before they pay you a dime, right? You don't find that anywhere else in a non-union facility, right? And that's a net number. That's tax-free compensation. But even on the hourly rate, we have the advantage over most non-union people. So to be a union member in the industries we represent, it's a good gig. And then after my involvement, I started off like in a bargaining committees, things like that. And then the guys asked me if I'd like to be a steward, which I had no idea what that was. So, you go to the training, you go to the classes, you get involved. And it's at that point when I really realized it's more than just compensation, right? It's your hours, your conditions, your voice in the plants. You do really have a say-so with a union contract. If you do not have a collective bargaining agreement with an employer, you're an at-will employee. You do as they say, or you can hit the door, pal. I mean, as long as they don't violate your federal rights, they get a pretty much wide margin to do what they want. And I don't think people really realize the power that they have as a member of a union and to have a collective bargaining agreement. Again, compensation has always been the driving force, I believe, but it's more than that. It really is truly a voice on the job. Scheduling, conditions, you can really have a viable role in your place of employment, regardless of what it is, if it's retail or otherwise. So.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense and can kind of be hard to see why not everyone would want to be in a union and support their union. But I do think you're starting to kind of see some of those attitudes change and people being more and more pro-union. What do you think is kind of contributing to that change, and how can we make sure that change keeps happening?
Well, in light of recent events, you saw what happened, with the big three, the UAW. Prior to that, it was the Teamsters with UPS. It was prior to that, it was, Kellogg's and these manufacturing facilities, the post-COVID years, right? And people who work for non-union employers are sitting back saying, wow, did you see that? See what happened here? It's really works. The system works, and it's power. It really is, collective action. So I think that's kind of what's driving some interest today. Plus, I really do, my personal opinion, a lot of employers just don't have the respect for the people that they employ. You just do as I tell you and shut up. I want your opinion, I'll ask you, right? And that's a very, very serious mistake, I believe, right? So I think people, especially the younger generation, right? I'm stuck an old man, I guess, because I am. I started in 1979. This is my 45th year. So I've seen a lot that's transpired over the years. But I think the younger kids today, the younger folks, they're a pretty militant bunch, man. They're not going to sit down and shut up and do as they're told, right? They're going to challenge, man. We have more interest in organizing with the younger folks than we do pretty much anywhere. And I see that being a pathway to the future for organized labor.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. It seems like the worse things get, the more, the business owners and the bosses will kind of push down on us, the more people are going to fight back. And I think we see that growing.
Yeah.
So, during your time in the labor movement, from your time in the Butchers Union up into today with UFCW, in addition to kind of the perceptions that people have of the union, I think there have also been a lot of changes in the union movement itself, and kind of what it means to be a union. Yeah. Could you kind of talk about what some of those changes and evolutions have been?
I think over the time, I'll go in reverse order. Local 75, i.e. the I-75 corridor from Michigan to Lexington, right? So that's our jurisdiction, right? And how we arrived at this area, and this goes back starting maybe 100 years ago, right? Because the charter issued to the Butchers Union in Cincinnati was like 1916. Right? There were 3 different retail locals in Cincinnati. You had grocery, retail, drug, and you had a furniture store local. Right? And then you also had we had a packing house local 7A. That was just Cincinnati. And then Dayton had a clerk's local, meat local. Toledo had 2 meat locals, had a clerk local. And all these mergers occurred over the years, right? So I just jotted a few of these down as I was coming in. So we had 3 clerk locals forming to make what was then Local 1099. And then the meat locals merged in Cincinnati, forming into 1099. We had 6 different boot and shoe and garment workers. Now, people will look at me and say, what is that? But prior to 1979, because when I hired in, I was part of the Amalgamated Butchers Union, right? But in 79, United Food and Commercial Workers formed through a merger. 7 large international unions, the 2 largest being retail clerks and the butchers. But we had garment workers, we had boot and shoe workers, we had furriers, we had jewelers. We had all these people merged in to create what we knew then, or knew now, as UFCW. So a lot of the smaller locals merged in order to I don't want to say survive, but to have the resources required or necessary to represent the members efficiently. Right? Some of these locals were so small they couldn't even take on an arbitration, right? So we had like 6 of these small garment locals in Cincinnati merged at 1099. And then in Dayton, you had a meat local 430, and then 1552 was the retail clerks. They merged together, and then a couple of years later, they merged in with Cincinnati. We're still local 1099 at that time. And then it's been 10 years, maybe, give or take, Haze. I'm thinking 10 years. We did the same thing with the Toledo local, right? So they had, they had 146, which represented basically the Campbell's facility, and Napoleon. There you go. And 626 was a meat local, who merged with 954, which is retail clerks, forming local 911. So we did a vote with the membership. We merged with 911. Transformed ourselves into local 75. Now, there's going to be a quiz on all that I just gave you. But anyway, you could just see what's transpired over the years, right? So again, here we are sitting at 27,000 people with the resources and the staffing necessary to properly represent these people. And I'm proud of the staff that we have and the work that we do. We have very lucrative trust funds that provide our health and welfare benefits to the majority of our members. Some of our employers have their own benefit and retirement structures, but the majority are Taft-Hartley pension, Taft-Hartley health and welfare. And we have representation as trustees on these boards with the employers, and we hire the plan, professionals to represent. And in order to maximize our efficiencies for these benefits, we also merge those trust funds. So Region 4 in UFCW is Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan. Probably 6 to 7 really large locals in that 4-state area. The majority of them represent members from the Greaver company. And we merged all those trust funds into one. Again, to eliminate administrative costs, actuaries, auditors, attorneys, accountants, so on and so on. And that money poured back into the trust where it should be to help maintain and provide the benefit levels that our members are used to. Because like I said, when I was a younger guy, my combined health and welfare and pension wasn't much to talk about, right? It's 30 grand today. 30 grand. You go to anybody working on the Walmart, Kmarts of the world, I don't know, non-union people, hey, what kind of health care plan you got? Most of them aren't real happy. And if they are, they're paying out the wazoo for it, right? So again, through these mergers has created efficiency. Through these mergers has created better representation. And I think we're doing pretty well. I'm pretty proud of our guys and the young ladies that service our members, and all we can do is work forward, for the future to maintain. So,
yeah, I think you mentioned efficiency and how having the mergers into a bigger union rather than a bunch of kind of just separate unions definitely makes things more efficient and able to move a lot smoother. You also talked earlier about kind of power, and do you think that having the mergers into a bigger union kind of increases the amount of power that workers have to fight back?
Definitely. I'll tell you, here's an example. The majority of our members, the largest signatory employer with Local 75 is, by and large, the Greaver company. But if we are representing, say we're in contract negotiations with other employers, you call it Meijer, call it CVS, we're going through things with Rite Aid right now. On the packing side, we have Heinz, we have Campbell's, we have Tyson, they have Smithfield, they have all these other packing employers. But let's say I'm not going to pick one by name, but I'm in bargaining with one of our packing house employers, right, or processing employers. They know that the guy across the table bargaining with them is sitting on 27,000 dues-paying members with a treasury that can fight them, can take on the fight, can sustain the fight, can protect the members, can provide the benefits, can provide the strike pay, can provide the resources required to take that guy down. We don't advocate a strike, but sometimes you have to defend yourself in situations. And when the employer knows that you have the resources to do so, you have the membership to back you, it kind of puts a whole different spin on the outcome of a bargaining process. There's strength in numbers. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's really a pretty good summary of the union movement in general, their strength in numbers. So you talked about how you'll have younger members coming in now with a lot more militancy than you might have seen in kind of previous times.
Yes.
When you're kind of sitting down and meeting with some of these younger members, what's kind of a piece of advice you might give to someone who's, just starting a new job and new to the union movement?
patience. One thing I've learned, a lot of the newer folks, man, they want it now, man. I want to do it right now, and I understand it. I get it. I do. But you know, the foundation to organized labor, especially out of the building trades, I should say, is seniority, right? And you earn that right. You earn that right for scheduling. You earn that right for benefits. You earn that right for vacation, whatever it may be. But I like the attitude of a lot of younger folks coming in because they say, hey, look, you know, we're looking to do ABC. Right, which we've never really looked at whatever ABC may be, because they come in with a fresh voice and a fresh view of what the future may look like for them, right? So they bring great ideas to the bargaining table. They bring a lot of passion to the bargaining table, and it kind of works. It really kind of adds a little bit of continuity to the bargaining committees, because on these committees you'll have very senior folks who've earned the right to be there, different classifications, but then we'll have some newer people too. First time they've ever been there. First time they've ever been in a bargaining. Before they even took a job in a union, they didn't know what collective bargaining meant or was, right? But as they get involved and they get trained and they move forward, they bring some pretty fresh ideas with them.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's I think important to have that kind of youthful militancy and energy, but you have to also have the wisdom that comes with seniority and the patience, like you said. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So I just wanted to thank you for joining us here to help us kick off this first episode of the podcast.
Fantastic.
I think it's, really a great way to kind of run through the history of the union and the union movement a little bit. And thank you for being with us.
All right. Thank you, Thomas.
Next, we're happy to introduce and bring up executive board members from Local 75, Roberta Greaver and Haze Hererra. Roberta is a member at Kroger 758 in Dayton, Ohio, and Haze is a member working at Kraft Heinz in Fremont, Ohio. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us, Thomas.
Yeah, of course. So Roberta, we can go ahead and start with you. You've been a member of UFCW for some time now, but before we talk about what union membership and actually being in the union has, meant to you and been like for you, could you just talk a little bit about how you first came to join the union and why you decided to become active?
First of all, I want to apologize for anything that may come out that probably shouldn't, because I can almost guarantee you, and I left that word out for you, that it will, because that's just what I am.
We'll edit what we need to edit.
Yeah, we don't. Hopefully there's minimal. But anyway, I started at Kroger in 1978, actually, before Kevin. I didn't realize that, but I did. A member of the local 1552 retail clerks before all the merges and blah, 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 blah. Hype shit, bull, came to be. I was part of that. I was a young 21-year-old and didn't really, the only thing I understood, my father was a big union person. He was a machinist, worked for Macaulay's division of Cessna. So I was indoctrinated into the union system for years before that. Union's where you want to be. The money's better. You get better pay. Union people take care of union people. Brothers and sisters, we take care of each other. Good, bad, or indifferent. We are there for each other, and that's major. Everybody does. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and a lot of dogs getting eaten out here, But we take care of Haze needs something. I'm here for him, I hope he is for me too, but whatever. But I got to see some of the actions, what drew me to the, the stewardship and then the executive board or whatever. I don't know why I do say it, whatever. People just get all their little panties in a uproar, whatever. I don't like people mistreated. Call it whatever. And I seen that at a younger level. I'm like, why the hell are we doing this? This is crazy shit, right? Which got me to look to where I could help. Sounds kind of corny, but I do try to help. That's what geared me that way, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense and is, I think, kind of what motivates a lot of people who are in the union movement is to be there for their, for their coworkers. Was there kind of a specific moment that made you kind of start realizing that, or was it just kind of over time? Well,
it was kind of over time, but I'm not going to say people or places or where, whatever. But there was people that picked on weak. I am, if you can't tell, I'm not one of them people, by the way. But I saw, a little older lady. I was an older lady then. I am now. Try it now. See where you can go. Go ahead. I don't care. But anyway, they the people started, just picking at her and beating up. She was, in my eyes, harmless. She didn't bother me. I'm not going to tell you what she said to me one time because that's a little whatever. But anyway, come to the defense. I'm not going to sit there and watch you do that. And over the years, I've been more effective undercover than above the covers. I've done more that people don't understand I've done than what's out there. Because I'll take the fight on. Me and you. Whatever it takes.
I like that. I think that also kind of goes along with what we were saying earlier with Kevin. People have a impression of what the union is, but they really don't see everything that happens behind
granted,
the scenes.
we have a reputation because they say all you do is represent bad. The bad, the bad, the bad. There's bad apples in a bag, you throw it away. That's all you do. But you still got to acknowledge it, right? There's more good out here than bad, and the good shouldn't take a hit because of the bad. We just shouldn't.
Yeah.
I have a colorful vocabulary, and if I can help, I will.
Yeah.
The benefits are fabulous too, by the way. That's definitely a selling point. And I think I'm gonna say this because I say it all the time. There's two things that I spew at all these political things, whatever. I think organized labor needs to be taught in schools first and foremost, because people, they don't understand where we're at. They don't understand how to get here. And no one should run for office of the world, the highest office of the world, that does not know and understand and can enforce the Constitution. That needs to be taught as well. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you for that, Roberta. I think people definitely need to have a better understanding of what it is we're out here fighting for.
If they know what they're fighting for, you're more apt to get somebody to fight.
That's
Other than
definitely
sitting
right.
back and saying, I don't care what they do to you, they're not doing it to me.
Yeah.
But it does matter. A woman years ago told me, because I asked her that very question when I was young, I said, why do you care what they're doing to these people? And her answer to me was, God rest her soul, because she's passed away since. But she said, Roberta, if they can do that to them, they might think they can do that to me.
Right.
And I have lived by that ever since.
It's a good way to live, and we appreciate that.
Yes.
So Haze, kind of turning it over to you now for a little bit. Really kind of a similar question. We all kind of end up in the same place, or at least we do, of being for the union and being for our fellow people in the labor in the labor movement. But I imagine that everyone has a little bit of a different path towards getting there. So could you talk a little bit about how you first came to join the union and how you decided to become active?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was 1999. I had just gotten out of the Marine Corps. And I've been bouncing around from jobs. I mean, once you get out of the Marine Corps, a lot of people think that like, oh, you're set for life. But, I got out of the Marine Corps and it was almost kind of like graduating high school again. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a young family. I had 2 kids and a wife. And, I was really out there struggling in the workforce, trying to find a job, trying to see where I fit in. And I worked a lot of, non-union jobs. And I kind of got to me, it was normal life, the way that I got treated, the raises that I would get, just in general, like unfairness in the workplace. Like, hey, today you're going over here. Tomorrow I could be in some other position. And it was just pretty hard for me. Transitioning from the Marine Corps into, the blue collar workforce. A friend of my mother's family was working at Kraft Heinz, or Heinz at the time. And I knew that it was a good job. I wasn't exactly sure why it was a good job, but I know that a lot of people that worked there a long time. And I knew that they made good money there, good benefits. I didn't even know what good benefits meant or was. So I ended up applying there. I ended up hiring in. And, I worked there for a couple of years. And when I first started working there, I was like, man, this is one of the best jobs I've ever had. And at the time when I got hired in, the way the contract was set up, I went from making like $10 an hour, and in 3 months, I went up to $18 an hour because the contract that they had negotiated said at this time, everybody who was at this pay level, once the contract expires, we all go top rate. And I was just, it was a life-changing raise. You're going from, making $10 an hour to, you know, and the other jobs that I was working, I was making like $9 or less. And so even just going at the lowest level of a union job, I was still making more money than I had, you know, previously, just out there bouncing around temp agencies. I mean, it was kind of a rough living to start out with. And so, again, I don't know what a union is. I'm not interested in the union at all. And then I ended up getting fired. I ended up getting fired for being late. And it was like straight up, like it was no question about it or anything like that. And before I left, somebody was like, listen, man, file a grievance. And I'm like, for what? You know, I broke the rules. They got me.
Right.
You know, it's over for me. You know, I messed this job up. They said, look, just file a grievance, go through the process. You never know. You never know what could happen. And so I did. I filed a grievance, and, you know, the union, you know, stood up for me. You know, Deb Collins, John Smith, you know, they were my representatives at the time. He was my chief steward. Deb Collins was my my rep. And yeah, they went up there. They had my back, and they really stood up for me. And I ended up getting my job back. I mean, I was just shocked.
Yeah.
And that's when I started, you know, trying to. That got my attention. It's like, well, like, what is this
Right.
union thing? And I just started. I think I was grateful for the union and what it did, and I thought to myself, I need to get more involved. I need to see how I can contribute, how I can, you know, help out or give back somehow. So I started going to union meetings, just kind of hanging out, seeing what was going on, get myself more educated about the union. Started volunteer. I think one of the union meetings I went to, they handed out like a sheet where you could volunteer to come out and do stuff with the union. And so I did a little bit of that, just did a little bit of organizing, just coming out, helping out, simple stuff, nothing complicated, you know, billeting, standing outside with signs, you know, supporting the union and stuff like that. And then after I started doing that, getting to know more about the union and seeing what the union was all about, I guess I started wanting more leadership roles in the union. I wasn't happy with this, or I wasn't happy with that, and like who negotiated this contract, or who would let this happen. You know, I was really a complainer, a bitcher. You know what I'm saying? I was bitching all the time about stuff, and so you know, instead of bitching, I was like, you know, I got to get involved. I can't be sitting here criticizing the union and the leaders of the union and not trying to make a difference myself. And so I ran for steward. I began that way. I ran for steward. I won. And shortly after that, I ran for the bargaining committee, and I got involved in negotiating a contract. And after that, after being part of the negotiating committee, like I was in, because at first, I mean, I was amazed at the whole process when I first started, and I was kind of like a deer in the headlights because, you know, before you go to negotiations, you think in your head, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to tell them this and tell them that. And it's like, you know, the process isn't like that at all. But the process, you know, works. And so I started getting involved, and that's how basically I got involved in the union. I just a slow evolution. But I think the first impact that the union had on me was when you know, I got fired. The company had me dead to rights, and because of the union, I was still able to get my job back. And I've been there for 23 years now. Wow. You know, I've been there for 23 years. The company ended up giving me a last chance, and had to be a good boy for 2 years, not mess anything up. And I passed that. I wouldn't say I'm such a good boy anymore. But I've been there 23 years and with a great union job, great contracts, great raises, great benefits. It's allowed me to raise my family very comfortably, throughout this whole time. So,
yeah, that's really, I think that's really cool to hear about. It seems like kind of a common theme is that people might, see all of a sudden, hey, what's this thing that's here for me? And, how can I be here for the union? How can I support people the way that it's supporting me? So I think that's a really great way to be involved with it. So Roberta, Haze talked about how he used to work in some non-union shops before he got started at Heinz. Had you ever worked in a non-union place before working at Kroger?
I did for 6 months. Long term,
6 long months.
Yeah. I couldn't do it, because I was, like I said, I'm not going to watch you just beat up. I'm not. And it was, can I say what it was? It was Kmart. They're defunct now, so it doesn't really matter. And they actually, people treat people bad if they can. I don't care who you are or where you are. You're not going to treat me like that or anybody around me. So, yeah, I did. And when I was in high school, I worked at what are now dollar stores, used to be dime stores downtown Dayton. When I was going through high school, I worked there. So I worked too. The one down there wasn't, it was neither here nor there. I was young, dumb, whatever. It was just, something to do. But, yeah, and I just want to take the time while we're doing this to give a shout out to, we have the best, and I do mean this, and I don't kiss nobody's ass. That's not something I've ever done or I ever will do, I hope. We have the best leadership throughout the country. We do. Our staff, everybody, Kevin, Brian, Scott, you guys. I mean, it's phenomenal and amazing. I was doing the job, huh?
As a member, we see,
see other unions, yeah.
We see other unions, and and it might not trickle up because you guys don't see it, but I know that we're really appreciative of the job that you guys do, and I feel like our contracts show all the hard work that the UFC that our leaders do, because
they're member oriented. They
the 23 years that I've been at Kraft Heinz, I feel like we've negotiated some of the best contracts in the country. If you go and look at our contracts and go, line for line, bar for bar with other contracts, I think that we have some of the best contracts in the nation.
Bottom line, Haze, myself, not out to be millionaires. We're not out to have mansions and like that. We want to live good and have our people live, comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
I think that's at the end of the day what, most people, except for some of those business owners that we have trouble with, that's what most people are after.
And one job. Not 3 and 4, because a lot of places, you have to work 2 and 3 jobs to maintain for what we have one. And that's huge.
Yeah, I think that kind of stability and security that comes with that is really important.
Correct.
And as important as, having, of course, a dedicated staff, there to, help things along at the end of the day. Without the members, the union is nothing. It's the, the energy and the, the passion and the everyday effort of the members that makes a union. And
the members need to trust. They need to trust us or we're nothing,
Yep. Yeah. So we talked with Kevin also a little bit about some of the changes that he saw during his, his time with the unions and the labor movement. As members, are there kind of some changes that you all have seen as well in the way that unions have operated and the way that, kind of people feel about them? I guess we can kind of start with Haze.
There's always change. We're always changing. We're always evolving. I think that one of the biggest things that I've seen, and I'm going to say this first. I'm happy to hear Kevin say that younger people are starting to step up, because I do feel like this past, I would say, decade, the unions, the membership has not been as vocal or as involved as we should be.
What we were.
As what we were. There's been a decline in membership getting involved. It's hard to get stewards. It's hard for people to I don't know if it's why it's hard for people, but for some reason people don't get involved and are not attending meetings and going through that. So would love to see a resurgence of that. I think we've been battling a lot with, mainstream media bashing unions, and we don't get the voice because we don't have the, millions of dollars that corporate America has to spend on,
Correct.
On being able to, on getting onto platforms to spread their message. And I'm glad to see us doing stuff like this podcast to get our view, the workers' view. We're down here in the trenches, and I think that a lot of it has worked. I mean, honestly, their campaign to make unions look bad or make us look like, leeches or savages or, like unmotivated people. Oh, if you belong to a union, then, you're not motivated and you don't have the hustle in you to make your own wage and stuff like that. And I think that's just infected a lot of people, whether consciously or subconsciously. We're hearing this message, and some people coming into union shops already come in not liking it. And it's like, how could you even judge what a union is if you never, I've heard this and I heard that. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, where are you hearing this stuff from? Well, I'm here. I know where they're hearing it from because I hear it too. And so, I think that there has been a decline in union involvement by the membership. It's like they almost see the union as a separate entity. And I have to keep reminding people, it's like, we are the union. It's not the union, the company, and you. We are the union here at this, where we're at.
Yeah.
And for that, in order for our union to function, we need people you need to serve. You need to serve your time. And, luckily for me, the union got me early because I learned from somebody that they served me, and I appreciated that person being there for me. And I guess that's kind of what's motivated me to be like, I also need to serve because, something was given to me. Again, like, I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have this job. The jobs in my hometown are not the greatest around. We have there at Kraft Heinz one of the best jobs in our city. I live like 5 minutes away. Like, I'm sure I would have been fine. I'm sure I would have found another job or anything like that. But, this job has been my rock, has been my anchor. And I got the union to thank for that because they were able to give me my job back.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think it's really important that people keep that in mind that, like you were saying, the union isn't a separate thing. It is you and your coworkers. And that's, really what it's all about. I also think, you talked about how a lot of people might come in with these anti-union ideas. I think it's also important that, people are kind of aware that, when you are hearing all these, opinions that you might hear on the mainstream media, that those, mainstream media outlets are corporations themselves who are owned by bosses who might not be a huge fan of their workers unionizing. It's not that they're always going to be union busters, but there might be a little bit of bias there, which makes it, really important to hear these kind of different messages directly from workers themselves. So I really appreciate that.
Sure.
So then, Roberta, I guess kind of a similar question. Have there been, kind of changes in the union movement that you've seen either kind of day to day on the job or, more broadly?
Well, pretty much I'll just piggyback on what he said. It's been an ongoing, because I've been around 46 years. There's been major changes. And, do I remember all of them? No, probably not. But one thing that does stand out when you're talking about people coming in with the pre-notion that unions are bad, they're bad, they're bad. One thing that disturbed me, and it did then, it does now, I just laugh at you when you say it because I got a sense of humor, I don't need a union. I'm a good worker. I laugh in your face. Do something they don't like and see
right.
Who you going to call? Ghostbusters or Roberta? I bet you call Roberta.
That's a good choice.
It's just my guess. But there's a lot of that out there. I don't need you because I'm on my own. I don't need you. I got a call just a couple of days ago from somebody that didn't need. Now all of a sudden, can you help me? I'm like, I don't know. But we'll do what we can.
Right.
And that was an honest answer. But yeah, he's right. People come through with these anticipations of we're going to rule the world. Good luck with that. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
But we take care of our business. Yeah. I've had bouts with
We definitely take care of business. I know that.
things before, and through the years I've went through all the mergers. Some good, some not, some not so good. That's when you kind of see not bad leadership, not horrible, and then I can't stress enough how good they are.
Yeah, you hate to see that. You hate to see.
Yeah. I'm not even going to say how bad some of them were, but I've seen bad.
A significant event for somebody to finally recognize the union, and it's like it's a struggling battle because people will come in with that attitude,
right?
Won't learn until that supervisor that they're buddy with.
They're on the hot seat, getting ready to be flipped.
Is all of a sudden, the supervisor is so nice. I don't know what happened to him. That supervisor never changed.
No.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
He has been like that. You
been
just
an ass all along.
And now you know why we have
right.
unions for workers' rights. When a supervisor gets out of pocket and starts talking to a member a certain type of way, they have somebody to go to. They have the union where it's like, you're not going to talk to the workers this way. You're not going to treat us this way. But
give us respect.
A lot of the times workers don't understand that until it happens, and they're like,
right.
Oh, now I have somebody to turn to. But again, they come a little bit timid. It's like, but we're here for everybody.
Correct.
We don't care what you said about the union. Now is our opportunity to show you.
I did handle the issue, by the way.
Right. Yeah, but listen, I'm going to handle this issue.
Yeah.
They get scared of the union, and unfortunately, that's a lot of the times that's how we have to win people over. But hopefully, with podcasts like this, getting more information out there, we can have people come in with the education of already knowing what a union is, so we start off on a better foot with the union and keeping people involved, keeping people serving, and just keep that an attitude. I mean, at the end of the day, the system that the union has works because the persons that get elected onto the negotiating committees or the stewardship are representing the majority of the factory or your workplace in order to represent those views and elevate those, whatever demands that we may have or grievances that are going on. We get a chance to correct those things.
Yeah, tell me what you want brought to the table and we can bring it.
Because it changes, right? With different generations, the needs change. Like when I first started, everybody wanted overtime.
Now they don't.
Now nobody wants overtime. So all the seniors are like, why do I get all the overtime? Because this is what we negotiate. Well, why did you guys negotiate that? Because, back then, the high seniors wanted all the overtime. It's like, we don't want it. Make the low seniors do it. It's like, do you realize
kind of late in the game,
the money that you're missing out? So contracts are ever changing, and that comes with, new generations. And I think that the unions are the perfect vehicle to express those changing views and those changing environments. It allows us to negotiate with the company to balance all those things out.
I will say this. You say the difference between then and over through the years, there is something that sticks to my mind. Right now, contracts, when you need people to come out and vote, companies look to see what the percentage of people that come out and actually vote for your contracts, right? The union right now makes it so available to you to cast a vote that it's unreal. In the 80s, we had to rent out places because before internet, before all this, we had to rent out facilities because there were so many people come to vote. We would rent out the UD Arena for the whole day, different sections and it was filled all day long. Hererra, God rest his little soul, we were, because the impact was so big. And now we can't get that many people and there's more of us and they can't get them
we just went through a ratification not too long ago. The funny thing that that stands out is I was a chief steward. I was also on the negotiating committee, but members were telling me like we should go somewhere to vote, and I'm like, why? Like, oh, because we can all go there. This and that. I go. That's like, it has never been more convenient than the
Correct.
way, like, they
Correct.
mail
Oh my God.
a ballot to you.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any better.
With the
It
contract,
does not.
you can read through. You have ample time to make a decision.
Over the
I
years,
think the voting process is amazing.
way better than back
Yeah.
in my day. Way better. Way better.
You don't have to like schedule.
Correct. I mean, you had 3 slots. You come this time, or this time. And it still is kind of time slotty, but it's like right next door, right in your work. I mean, you can do it without leaving where you had to at least take time off and go. And I'm not going to say what I did, but I transported many people to vote.
Yeah, I think making sure that, voting, but really
There's a
just,
limitation on that shit anyway.
voting, but really just all parts of the union be as accessible as it can is, one great way to make, grow that movement and have people be more involved. And I think kind of in addition to that, the more and more we see, kind of attacks from big business making things worse, the more people are going to want to be involved and they'll be fighting for those steward positions and they'll be voting
Hopefully.
in even higher numbers.
Hopefully, yeah.
And just kind of helps them, see the union on a more day-to-day basis. I think when it comes to a union that is as big and diverse as UFCW Local 75, especially with all the different mergers that have happened and just covering a wide territory, you do see kind of the specific ways that things might operate. There is some variance from kind of workplace to workplace, industry to industry. So Haze kind of talked about some of the ways that they make it very easy to vote at Heinz. What are some of the ways that kind of process might look different at a place like Kroger, and how do they make it accessible, on the retail side?
There's a huge difference between retail and packaging. Heinz, Campbell's and all that. They're structured all in one building. Kroger has, I want to say, 110 stores, Dayton, Cincinnati. That's huge. So for us to have access to everybody the way they do, the mail is not the answer. So what they did the last contract, when we set up at X amount of stores, so many miles from each other, there was different locations all around, to where there's only so many miles that you could go there to cast your vote. You didn't have to go outside perimeters. Too many and too much instilled with for the number of people we have, 15,000 versus 300. There's huge difference on how our approach to get them effectively versus theirs, and costly. The cost effect and everything is different on retail side versus the packaging and whatnot. Even our stewards, where they, we have the opportunity for we rely a lot on our union representatives, because they're going from store to store. They see people there. They have connections with our members to pick one or to choose one that's knowledgeable and one that's workable for the people, for us, that can convey. And that if they move to another store, because that happens daily, it seems like with retail, that we're not still hurt, because you got to pick this or pick that. We have to be able to be represented at every facility, every store, every location. So it's huge difference between, I don't say us and them, but between retail, all retail, Kroger, Meijer, CVS, all of those, versus an in-house packing or processing facility.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and it's really important that we, don't try and use a one size fits all approach when we have, when it doesn't fit all. Yeah,
right. It doesn't.
We need to make sure that we're representing all of our members, and not all of our members work at the same, in the same industry. So I think that's really key.
Sadly, we don't all have the same issues.
Right.
When we had a meeting not long ago, they were talking about lockout, tagout, and I had to ask them, "Would you explain that?" Because people on the retail, our side, don't know what that means. I found out through the Health and Safety Committee what it meant, but you would know.
Oh, yeah. That's
and
rule number 1, lockout, tag out.
Sure. And we on our side, retail, had no idea what it was like. We're like deer in the headlights. We had no idea what it meant.
Yeah, and I think that, as long as we do make sure that we have those different, different approaches to the different industries, I think that can really be a strength to have those different industries, because like you were saying, you might not have really known how lockout tagout worked.
No.
But this way you kind of have different sectors, I guess, of the working class who are being made aware of the problems that their brothers and sisters are having in a way that they might not have any way to do otherwise.
And then Haze, God bless him, he doesn't understand or know how customers throw things at you. and they do, So it's
probably me after I've done working 12 hours.
It's not me. That's all I'm going to say. It's not me.
108 degree heat. I'm like,
there you go.
Sure.
Little hot and disgruntled.
So like I said, we're all learning a lot about the different industries. But yeah, I think, so we've talked a lot about kind of the ways that we make sure that, all of our members are doing the best they can and really succeeding. And we talked a lot about the value of a union. If you had to kind of pick one occasion that really showed you that value of the union, whether it was a contract negotiation or an organizing drive, or really just kind of an opportunity to stand up to the bosses when they were, putting you down. If you had to pick kind of one instance like that, kind of what comes to mind first? I guess Haze can go first.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely a contract negotiation that I didn't like. I'm not going to go into the details about it, but it was a contract negotiation that I didn't like, where it really hit home, because I was expecting a certain amount of raises and a certain amount of benefits, and it didn't come through. And I think that's kind of what sent me over the edge to like really cemented my thought to get involved, to start running for stewardships, to start running for negotiating committees, and just getting involved in general. So yeah, it was a contract negotiation for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's something that kind of motivates a lot of people to get involved. So that makes sense. Roberta, is there kind of a single moment that sticks out to you?
Well, there's many moments, but one, when he's talking about negotiating, there was one contract that we negotiated that sticks out really, really major. We have, for lack of better words and words I'm allowed to say and not allowed to say, people that don't tell the truth, and these people were using words that the normal committee had no idea what they meant. Holiday, you know what holiday means? Big deal with money in some corporations. Not the same thing as 8 hours for this day off. It doesn't mean the same. And they use these words. This was several years ago, and the guy's not around, but I'm being nice. But I still remember. I took training from Carson and all these community service classes where you learn to look people in the eye when they're talking. Put his head down, wouldn't look me in the eye. Indication that maybe that's not what it was.
Right.
And then someone else called him out and made him tell the whole, crew what it was. And that was a bold-faced lie, what he was saying in front of everybody, to get somebody to say, oh man, this is what, not a good one. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I will never forget, I can't say the look on his face because he hit it. So did all the other guys on that side.
Yeah. Kind
of had their head down. And these are guys that don't duck. Every one of them put their head down and would not look me eyeball to eyeball.
I think that kind of dishonesty you were talking about on the company side is something that workers probably deal with all too often.
Without a doubt.
And earlier, we were kind of talking about how it's nice to have, kind of the energy and militancy of newer members, as well as the kind of experience
and energy,
wisdom of the, more experienced members. But I was going to say, when you've got Roberta on your team, you don't need to choose, because you got the experience and you certainly got the energy. Yeah. So.
What are you going to do to me? Tell me to shut up?
Right.
You won't be the first, and I'm quite sure you won't be the last. I've been thrown out of more places than most people.
I can believe that.
Oh my God. Walmart came and met me at the door, told me I wasn't
thrown
welcome.
out of places.
Ain't that awful?
I need to go up with you, because
Come on, man.
I need to get thrown out of more places.
Come on.
I stay too long.
I'm old. I ain't dead.
So before we wrap it up, I think just one more question, the same kind of question the last question I asked Kevin. If you just have one piece of advice to give to someone who might be getting involved in the union for the first time, what would that be? I think we can do Roberta first.
I would think align yourself with somebody that's going to give you maybe not the physical whatever, but the knowledge that you need to take you to not guide you, tell you, okay, you know, you might not want to do that. I did it, didn't work out for me, or the path. But we need more. We definitely need more young people. And where everybody, we all, I personally don't, but I hear it. People blame the young people for everything. It's not their fault. We created them. So whose fault is it? Theirs or ours? We need to grab them and work with us so we can show them how to get through all the crap. And there's a lot of crap out there. And they're kind of young and naive and may not. If I've seen it, I'm going to tell you so you don't have to do it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great. You know, there might be.
I do have a following too.
I believe that. I'm sure you do. You know, we might have
not smart, but no.
You know, workers who are younger, workers who have been there for a while, all kinds of differences.
They're always going to be.
But at the end of the day, they're all workers. They're all there, you know,
Correct.
fighting together. And I think that's the most important part.
Right. And when these guys get older, they're going to be younger people come behind them.
Right. So yeah, Haze, I guess same question. If you had advice to give to a younger member, what would it be?
Definitely it'd be get involved. Get involved, even if it's just going to union meetings and just being a part of that. But definitely, if you're unhappy with your workplace, you're unhappy with the way things are going, do something about it. Get involved, serve. Like Roberta's saying, we definitely need the young people to step up. We definitely need more people involved with the union, and read the contract book.
Oh, for sure.
If you're starting to,
for sure.
If there's the biggest thing I can give you is read your contract. Make sure that you understand it. If you don't parts of it that you don't understand, don't go ask your coworker who has never read the contract. Go to your leadership. Go to your union stewards. Go to your chief steward. Go to people, your executive board members. Go to them. They're going to be a little bit more knowledgeable, because what happens is a lot of the times when you're first starting out in a union, you don't read the contract book. You don't do any of those stuff. And then, you start taking advice from random people that you're working with, and they've never read the contract book, and they're not giving you good advice. And so then a lot of these young people that have just started out in the union start off with a bad taste in their mouth because somebody told them, well, they can't do that, or you shouldn't have to do this because of this, and it's in the contract. And then they go to a union guy, and the union guy's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's never, well, so-and-so told me this, and so-and-so told me that. So for young people just starting out, just getting into the union, get involved, read your contract book, and go to your leadership and, ask them questions so that you're more educated on what a union is, what the contract actually says, what the contract actually means. I mean, there's a lot of, we'll say, wording in the contract book that could be interpreted different ways.
I say anything that we have for us, they can combat it somehow, or they can try. Yeah. So you learn how to fandangle.
And like Roberta says, remember, if you're not, motivated to serve, but when you see something going on, if they're doing it to them, they're getting away with doing it to them, they can get away with doing it to you.
Correct. That's why my advice: if you see something and you don't want to go to anybody, find me, find Haze, find somebody that you can trust. It's not going to throw your name out there, throw them out now, but give us the opportunity to fix what it is. And that starts people getting involved when they know they can trust.
Right. I think, if the company can get away with something, they will. So that's why it's up to us to, put a stop to it.
We got to watch out for each other, because that's how they get away with it. If they can, somehow they tend to do things when I'm not there.
Right.
I can't imagine why.
Because they're sure not going to do it while you're there.
But it happens. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I know about it.
Right.
As a rule.
Yeah. It'll get back to you, and you'll put a stop to it.
As much as I can, correct.
Right.
Correct.
And so as a comms guy, I feel like I have to say, so if you might not happen to have your physical copy of your contract on you, is there a place that, a member might find be able to find that contract?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this great app, the UFCW app. And I bust it out all the time when people are asking me, questions about the contract. They're like, hey, do you have a contract book? And I always say, I could
Download
say,
this.
yes, I do. And you do too. But, so yeah, the UFCW app is a very handy tool when it comes to all things UFCW. I mean, you can find you want to get involved, go to the UFCW app. You want to find ways to serve, go to the UFCW app. You want to look at your contract, go not only download it, but register. Make sure that you
RSVP for the last stewards meeting on it.
Right.
Congratulations. Thank you. That worked perfectly. And that
Good.
was because of you.
Well, thank you very
Thomas.
much. I appreciate the help with that shameless plug there on the app, but
Hey,
it
you
really
know
is a
what?
useful tool, so I appreciate
It worked.
it.
And I'm like, okay, it's going to work. And it did.
Well, good. I'm glad. So yeah, I just want to thank both of you for your time. I think we're about at time now, but I really want to appreciate, you both coming in coming in after work and coming here and talking to us and hopefully, helping to get out the message so more and more people can get involved and really know what unions are about. I think, with every passing day, things are, there's more and more attacks on workers. So it's important that we're able to fight back, know what it means to be a union and really know how to win too.
I really appreciate that opportunity to be part of the inaugural podcast. Of
Oh,
the
for sure.
UFCW.
For sure.
And I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'm really excited to see future members of the UFCW come here, talk to you, and get the different perspectives on who our union is, who is in our union. And I'm looking forward to
And how we take
looking
care
at all
of
that
them.
content.
But we
For sure.
can't take care of them without you guys. And by that, I mean, the leadership and, we can't do it. But it's a collaborative thing altogether.
For sure.
And we will, if you guys go
That's why it's called a union.
if you guys go out, I'm there for you.
Right? Yeah, I think that's great. It might be an uphill battle, but it means there's nowhere to go but up. So we're
There
excited
you
for
go.
that fight. So that'll do us for the first episode of Frontline Labor. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to always keep up the fight. See you next time.
Always.